Hello, my friend, and welcome back. Today I want to talk about like some of the changes that are happening and the way that we might be like feeling them and experiencing them. So I think that like in the past few videos, especially the one video, the message came through to be clearing the noise that kind of surrounds your intuition so you can be hearing it, more clear. And I think the reason why we were being called to do that and to continue to do that is not just so we can hear our intuition, but there is also the other aspect of that, and that is trusting your intuition. Because once you start working with your intuition and you realize just how subtle it is and how sometimes, your intuition can come through in a thought in your head and it's in your own voice, and you might have been expecting it to be something different. And so the other part of your intuition is being able to use your discernment of when it is your intuition and when it might be the running of your mind, and being able to trust that intuition. So clearing the noise around the intuition by, taking care of your mental state, your physical state, your spiritual state. All of those things are the biggest things in clearing the noise around your intuition. You really want to work on quieting that overactive mind and, being like allowing yourself to just be present and be in the moment and let go of the stressors that this current world is causing all of us. I think that it is a really common misconception, and I have it too, is that only a select people are knowing what's going on and feeling what's going on, and that's not true. Everyone's feeling what's going on. It's just a matter of, are they aware of what it is? Everyone kind of knows something's going on, and whether they decide to compartmentalize it and push it down into their subconscious and let it go and, keep themselves busy and keep themselves just moving forward and plowing forward. Well, that attitude is what kind of got us here in the first place. Not the only thing, but, just that never quieting your mind, never being able to sit alone with yourself and sit in the quiet with your thoughts, and never being able to be just quiet with yourself. You would really be surprised about how many people that just cannot do that. And it is a practice. That's why meditation helps so much, because it is that daily practice that is going to help you kind of build those blocks to being able, it's not an instant thing. It's not like, okay, well, I want to quiet the noise around my intuition and I have an overactive mind, so I am just going to instantly cure that overactive mind so I can hear God speaking to me. Doesn't exactly work like that. It is a process, so you do have to kind of like be taking those steps, and it's different. It's a personal journey. So more meditation might be, something that would help clear the noise for one person, but maybe someone else, breath work works better for them. Daily exercise, moving your body, eating the right foods. All of those things really come into play, but what I'm feeling right now is the biggest thing that's creating the noise is the fear. And anxiety of the uncertain, of the unknown, of what we don't know what's coming and how things are going to happen. So it's causing a lot of stress and trauma in us right now. And we need to be aware of that so we can be taking steps to kind of like eat it as it comes. You want to be processing your emotions right now, and you want to be keeping them in motion as an aware individual. And as you understand, as someone who as a spiritual person, you probably have a little bit more of an understanding of how trauma works. And no, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know, but I know that trauma is stored in the body. And I know that when trauma happens, that it does want to be processed it does want to be processed right away. And I'm talking about micro traumas. I'm not talking about like huge traumas. You need professional if you've had huge trauma in your life. But these small micro traumas that are happening to us right now, I definitely feel like we need to be processing them kind of as they come. And the way we do that is taking care of ourselves in mind, body, and soul. And really honoring the fact that we are all going through something, including my dog who's losing his mind right now. So that we're all kind of going through it, and we're all kind of going through something, and it's all shaping up to be different for every single person. So we need to acknowledge that, and then acknowledge that we might be experiencing some trauma, and then we can go from there. So then, you know, you want to, again, get quiet and ask yourself, what do I most need right now? Do I need a vacation? Do I need a couple days off? Do I need to be in nature more? How can I be processing these stresses that I'm currently feeling? How can I be processing them in a healthy way? Because stress isn't necessarily bad. It prepares us for what is going on in the world. It is the continuing of that state of stress that causes, you know, all of the negative effects that we feel later on, because then it gets stored in the body. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to continue to store things in our body that we have to deal with later. I think as a society, we are seeing how that is playing out right now, and whether or not it is being acknowledged as, you know, stress and trauma being stored in the body that is later coming out as illness, or whether you want to say that the stress is directly related to whatever it is. We know that inflammation is the root of pretty much all illness, and we also know that stress is the #1 driving factor towards inflammation. You can do an anti-inflammatory diet, you can exercise all you want, you can do all the anti-inflammation things. However, if you don't deal head on with the amount of stress that is in your life and the way you are handling it, it is not going to do diddly for you. You know, I think that the thing that we're coming to discover more and more about our physical and mental health is a lot of it is up here. It's not exactly what you're putting into your mouth and the exercise you're getting. Those things are all well and good, but it is the stress. It is the stress that is maybe driving you to eat a little bit extra, guilty, you know, that extra dessert or that bigger bowl of ice cream when you know you should keep it in moderation, you know, or maybe it's the stress that's keeping you in bed an extra half an hour to an hour earlier in the morning because you can't get to sleep at night, and now you can't exercise because you're too tired and you haven't gotten the adequate amount of rest. Let's talk about sleep. Who's not sleeping right now? Who's sleeping bad? And like, I know that I love sleep, and I'm a very different individual when it comes to this, but I prioritize my sleep. It doesn't go onto the back burner. My sleep is on the front burner for me because I know that that is one of the major things that kind of cause that trickle down effect in my day. Is when I'm tired and I don't get enough sleep, not only am I like a little cranky, but, you know, then I'm skipping my exercise. Then I'm not giving my all at work. Then I'm not being able to do these videos, you know? So it all kind of goes hand in hand. And for me personally, I say it for me personally because people want to deny it all the time, but I do think it is a blanket statement. Rest is so important. It is so important, and we need to be tending to our needs right now, because our needs that are calling out to us, whatever it is that is calling out to you, more meditation, breath work, better rest, more exercise, better nutrition, all of the above, maybe just a couple things, maybe just one or two. All of those things are puzzles to the pieces that kind of fit together. And now going back to the intuition. So, okay, now you've gone deep. You've reflected and you've looked at your life and, where can I cut the stress? How can I deal with this stress better? Because it's really important for me to hear my intuition and to be able to discern that it is my intuition so I can trust it. And because I think that our intuition is not just going to get stronger, but I think that we are going to start to experience it in ways that we have never experienced it before. I think that we like to categorize ourselves like, I'm a clairvoyant. I see in my mind's eye. Clairvoyant. Category. So what happens when you start to hear the music? What happens when you start to hear the vibration of the universe? What happens when you start to hear things? Now you're like, oh my gosh, so I guess I'm clairaudient too. And then you want to add another label and add another label. And like, we don't have to be labeling ourselves like this. Our clairs are God-given gifts that we all have, and we all have all of them. And the reason why we experience, the reason why we experience different clairs is because I'm getting the image of like a flat surface with holes in it, and the intuition is kind of like coming on top, and it depends on what holes you have is how the intuition comes through. That was the image that I saw. So that's why it is all different for us, because all of our brains are wired differently. All of our lives are differently. So God speaks to all of us in different ways. And the ways that you want to acknowledge it or whatever is, if you only want to acknowledge certain ways that God speaks to you, you can do that. That is all up to you, but you are going to be putting those blinders on and missing out of all of this. And I think all of this outside of our personal human blinders is what's going to start to come into sight for us. That's what I believe is really happening. And I want to say that because so my intuition and our journey is up and down. Your intuitive journey is up and down. But I felt like my intuitive journey was like on the up, like my clairs were getting so strong. And then it kind of like went downhill, and I noticed it was directly correlated with lifestyle things, with those things that were creating noise, not a great diet, less exercise, more stress, and living in that stress, not kind of pulling yourself out from that stress and be like, whoa, I need to zoom out here because I am getting so stressed out. I need to remind myself that all this little bullshit that's happening in my life means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, because I am an immortal spiritual being living a temporary human experience. So let me zoom out. Let me put on my God goggles for a little bit and try to give myself more of an objective view of things. So once you are able to do that, so now I'm back to doing a bunch of different things that are helping to clear the noise, and I'm feeling my intuition coming. It's not coming back, it was always there, but I'm hearing it more clearly now. However, I am starting to experience intuitive things that I guess, not that I only have not experienced in a long time, but that I have maybe never experienced. I'm trying to think about, so something that I have experienced before that I am starting to experience again is like the flutters in the corner of my eye. I did talk to an angel intuitive, actually brought this up to me, and she said that my guides wanted me to know that it's them. That, to not be scared, because, you always think like white light and whatnot. And oftentimes what I'm seeing in the corner of my eye is a lot of times looks like a dark shadow, but not like a dark looming shadow, just almost like a little cat's running somewhere or something like that. And we need not to be afraid of those things, you know, but that is also coupled. I am not scared of those things because I am, number one, someone told me that it is my guides. And number two, I'm not scared of experiencing more intuitive things and more, I don't want to say supernatural because it just has such a weird vibe attached to it, but more supernatural things. So, I mean, I'm not trying to like exactly see dead people, but I am okay with experiencing more of my intuition because I've set my energetic boundaries. I do it every single morning. I know that I'm divinely protected. I know that I have seniority in my energy and nothing can come into my energy without my permission. And I have boundaries that are impenetrable. So all of this spiritual work, all of this has been kind of like building towards this time. And it just sounds, I feel like, so cliche, but it's so true. But that is why we need to be clearing the noise so we can discern what is our intuition and what is the running of the mind. Because with everything that is going on into the world, a lot of things are being put into our head right now. And we really need to be tapping into the God, tapping into the Lord to help us, to keep us on the right track and to help us navigate these times. And also, let's not just navigate these times, but let's put ourselves in a position to thrive in these times. Because I think that a lot of us had, including myself, had different ideas of what the apocalypse was going to look like. And like, I guess like the zombies could still be coming for sure. Who knows? Anything can happen. But I think we were expecting this like collapse, like this total like Mad Max kind of like everyone died and everyone's gone and only few survivors, and we're wearing masks and rolling around on those crazy solar powered things. Oh my God, is that our life now? I'm kidding. But I think it's a lot more subtle, and it makes sense because energy work is subtle. You know, when you feel your intuition, it's subtle. It's almost never screaming at you. The only time that your intuition will get loud in that way, a lot of times, is if you're in immediate danger and you need that extra push to get yourself out of that situation. So, but otherwise, your intuition is subtle, the energy work is subtle, the clairvoyance is subtle, the clairaudience is subtle. The breaking down of our world to us physical humans may seem a little bit more subtle than we thought it was going to be. And hey, that's awesome, right? Because I would much rather go through a subtle apocalypse than a total Walking Dead, we no longer can shower and brush our teeth anymore kind of apocalypse. I mean, I don't know about you, but that is just kind of my opinion. So, but I take that as, now, okay, you're a little bit more safe in this world. Things might not be breaking down the way you thought they were going to be. Okay, let's get your footing now, and now let's thrive, my friends, okay? So let's pick ourselves up. Let's listen to our intuition, and let's thrive in a godly way. Let's thrive in an aligned way, in a way that we are supposed to be thriving right now, because God wants us to thrive, because God wants us to be the example. That's why we're here. We are here to show the others, okay? We are here to show the others that balance. Like, I can understand what's happening in the world. I cannot turn a blind eye and live in ignorant bliss. But at the same time, I'm not going to let that get me down, because I understand vibrations. I understand that when you put me in a state of fear and in a state of worry and a state of uncertainty and feeling uncomfortable, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but feeling anxious in that uncertainty, those are not the emotions that God wants us to be projecting, because God wants to say, listen, I can do anything. I am the most powerful universe. I can make this world crumble around you in an instant. But what your part is, what you need to be doing, is I want you to be living in the ultimate faith of me, is what God wants. God wants us to be living and to be trusting and to be in that faith that everything is working out for the highest good of all, for the most divine purposes. And that is where God wants us to be. Now, so living in that state of faith means you don't live in a state of worry. You don't live in a state of fear. You don't live in a state of sadness. And when you're living in a state of faith, I think, you know, you're living more in a state of bliss. You're more living in that heaven on earth. You are living in those higher vibrations that God wants us to do, because God created this vibrational universe or world, whatever, that we're living in. And, you know, like attracts like, and God did that. So therefore, God wants us to take care of his people by showing him the example of how we can be. The fact that we can still thrive in times like this, that we don't have to live in fear, that we don't have to live in ignorance, or we don't have to live in fear, because it's kind of seeming like it's one or the other. Either you totally ignore what is going on, or you're living in fear because you're like, oh my God, look at the state of the world has fallen so much. That is, God wants us to live in neither of those. God wants us to live with him, to be in his joy, to be in his faith, you know, to be, for us to be godly people in the world that he has created. Because let's not forget that when you're going to turn around and call this world fallen, you are talking about God's world. You are talking about God's creation, and you are talking about people and being and things that are no more godly or no more spiritual or no more loved than you or I, regardless of how evil you may think they are. So let's keep our perspective during these times, because I think it's one of the only things that is really going to get us through besides our faith. Is faith, perspective, and understanding. Using all of our teachings, everything that you've learned up until this point is now coming into play with your spirituality, because things build on top of each other. There was a reason why you were probably either awakened now or you were awakened pre-COVID. There was a reason for that, my friend, and we need to keep moving forward. Sometimes it feels like quicksand, I know. Sometimes it's difficult, it's hard. I skipped last week with this video. Like, I get you, I'm human, I feel you. The only thing that I can say, the only thing that I'm doing is I just got to keep moving forward. That's all we can do, you know, and just keeping our faith in the divine. But as these messages come through, as you're getting these messages and they resonate with you, they resonate for a reason. So start to take that inspired action around what, and it doesn't have to be big. Let's start small. Start with one small thing that you can be doing, because the reason why our intuition is so important right now is it is going to guide us to thrive during these times. And also it's going to start to look different because we are evolving as spiritual beings. So our intuition is going to evolve it as well. So we need to be able to use our discernment. So when something random happens, you know, when you see that flutter in the corner of your eye, you can be like, Anne was talking about that. That's my guides. What's up? I have boundaries, so I'm not afraid that that is a lower entity trying to creep around. I know it's my, you know, my guides from the highest light. You may not have experienced that before, but without your discernment, without, you know, continuing to do the work, you aren't going to be able to know that. You're going to be like, oh my God, I just saw something out of the corner of my eye and nothing's there. The devil's coming to get me. No, you have seniority. You can make choices, and by your vibration and what you do, like attracts like. So let's keep that in mind during these times. This video went a little bit long, but I just think it's so, like, just so important. I just want to share, like, the messages that I get and how I feel, and, you know, I just like to share it with, because if it helps one person, then I'm happy with that. So my name is Anne, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time.